You ready?
Ready. It's good night.
Let's do it. Day 3. And we start earlier today because it's a long day. We're doing glass factory. Yes. It's gonna be awesome. Favorite dive of all time? I get that question a lot. What was your favorite dive? Glass factory. Number 1. Undisputable. Let's see if Odie's here. There he is.
Otis, the blue hole dog, very famous.
Very famous dog. Hope you all get to meet him someday.
Glass factory.
Ralph's,
ready for this?
Ralph's today.
Ralph's today.
You gotta take all this stuff out. Are you sure? Let's go down with something. Let's grab something and take it, like tanks or whatever. Anyway, we're, oh yeah, that's right. He's gonna set up the canopy first.
This is amazing work. This.
Get some of that.
Yeah, that side actually stays off the deck.
Perfect. My favorite dive ever. And today might be topped off. This might be my favorite dive ever. It's gonna be awesome. Welcome everyone to dive number 3 of our Abaco 2023 trip. This dive specifically was kind of surrounded by hype. And the reason for that is that I told Benjamin, who unfortunately is not here to do a reaction with me because I'm back at the studio. I told Benjamin this was my absolute favorite dive ever. Of all the dives that I've done, hundreds of dives, this is my favorite dive, and it was last year. Now, an interesting thing about the dive last year was that I did not get to record it. It was our first trip to Abaco, me and Woody, and because of that, Brian was kind of hesitant to letting us film a whole lot. There's a lot that we didn't film. Like, we didn't film Glass Factory, which is what this dive is. And we also didn't film Fangorn Forest, which will be the next video. And according to Brian, the dive in Fangorn Forest is, he thinks, is the #1 cave dive in the world. I disagree with him, but he knows that. Let me pause right here for a second. I want to show you. So this is very early in the dive. Notice that my time is 6 minutes. This is just to show you what the computer looks like. So I'm at 63 feet. All right, so almost 20 meters. And 6 minutes into the dive, no stop time, no nothing like that. I don't have any deco. My O2 tank still has 2,700 PSI. All right, so divide that by 14.7 and you get bar. I'm operating at a 1.2 set point on this off-board computer, and my bailout tank has 3,148 PSI, which is a little over 200 bar. So that's basically what I have. And this STK is not stake, although stake sounds good right now. Stake, not stake, stack is how much time I have left on my sorb. So we set it to 6 hours. I started with brand new sorb for this dive. So obviously 6 minutes into my 6 hour stack time. That's 5 hours and 54 minutes left, which is great. I have air as my diluent. That's where it says 21% oxygen, 0% helium. That's what HE is. CC is closed circuit. My NDL is 94, which means I can stay at this depth for 94 minutes. No problem, and I will not have any deco time. And the time to surface is 2 minutes. And the TTS, time to surface, the computer doesn't know I'm inside a cave. It thinks I'm just 63 feet underwater. The typical, ascend rate is about 30 feet per minute. So it says, because you're at 63, it will take you about 2 minutes to get to the surface. I'm inside a cave, so it wouldn't take 2 minutes. I would have to go like full-on world record swimmer to be able to get out in 2 minutes out of the place that I was right now. So anyway, that is a breakdown. Now, I want you guys to remember this number, 2708. All right, so I'm going to do it here. I have a calculator. 2708 divided by 14.7. Wait, that's not right. 2708 divided by 14.7 equals 184.2. All right, so 184.2 bar I have. So 2708, remember in PSI, remember in bar, whatever. We're going to check it out because later on I'll show you the computer towards the end of the dive. Now B2, bailout 2 says no comps, and that's because I only had a bailout tank with an H valve because I'm diving the Psychic. New rebreather I just got certified in. It's the same rebreather Brian Kaycock is diving. So here he's making a jump. Notice Benjamin is right there on the shot, keeping trim. He's about to drop a cookie on the exit side. Once again, we've talked about this. This is standard operating procedure in a lot of cave diving. It is up for debate whether you place the cookie on the jump or on the exit side. It's kind of goes both ways. I personally prefer on the exit side, but in caves like in Mexico and stuff where there's a bunch of arrows everywhere, it's hard to determine sometimes the exit side. But anyway, here in the Bahamas it's easy, and we drop it on the exit side, and there you go. So those are Ben and me. Notice they have our names. I put a fancy, well, like a 3M reflector tape at the bottom, so it's easier to see. But here we are. So notice that, you know, we kind of gain Brian's confidence on this one. He's letting us film a lot more, and I'm trying my best to give you the whole kind of experience. So here we're going through a restriction that is vertical. It's hard because every time you go down, the gas in your system compresses, so I have to add gas. And also my PO2, my PO2 of oxygen raises, right? Or rises. It goes up. So the deeper you go, the oxygen, the PO2 goes up. So I have to add diluent in that case. So good news is that the Sidekick has an ADV. So I can add gas by just breathing hard, and it would just, you know, add diluent into the mix. So here we go. Benjamin is going up. And notice a pretty small crevice, but I like challenges, so I'm going to try to make it through and film at the same time. Shaky, of course. I'm not Jonathan Bird, but I try my best here to make it. Now I noticed as I was getting up, notice you heard some of that noise. I scraped on something, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be scraping. So I immediately, and you can see right here, I'm just going very slow because I noticed something is scraping into the wall. This is not crystal yet, so it's just limestone. And that's when I look at Brian, and Brian's like, something is wrong with you. You'll see his hand shaky, right? So that side by side means something is wrong. So they just went and helped me out with my tank. Something, one of the D-rings on my waistband had moved, has shifted a little bit. They're not supposed to shift, so Brian went back and put it back in place, and that was fine. Oh. But after that, as you can see, is a minefield. You do get to see Benjamin dive on this one. We've been taking turns. If you remember from dive 1, he was the feature diver, meaning I was recording. Dive 2, he was recording. So I was the feature diver there. And this one, dive number 3, we switched again. So I'm recording. You do get to see my face later on. But notice the ceiling is full of stalactite, crystal stalactites. So Benjamin has to make sure that he's not kicking those. He's keeping good trim and buoyancy. But all of this stuff is crystal. Everything right here on the left, I know it looks white. It may look like a white rock, but no, look, trust me. See? It's crystal. Rocks are not see-through with light. Now, that wasn't a really good example, but Brian decided to give us the best example. Check that out. Awesome. That whole mountain, as far as you can see how it's all white, is crystal. All of that is made of crystal, which is unbelievable. Now, I had some comments. I thought it was interesting on the last video. Some of you said, you guys stepped up your game with the camera. Amazing quality. And it's funny because this camera is actually really old. I had it before Dive Talk when I was filming my own dives just for fun. And Sony, which is the company that makes the camera, doesn't even make them anymore. I'm going to be so sad if that thing breaks. Because I can't get another one. And I love it. Alright, so here we go. These are draperies. Notice that Brian is putting his hand behind it to show us how see-through it is. So the crystal is so thin. And in this dive to the glass factory is where you get to see the thinnest draperies, at least from all of the areas of the cave that I've seen so far. I'm sure there's perhaps other thinner ones in other places, but I haven't been there yet. Look at that thing. It's awesome. There's also these crystal pools all over the place. These are amazing. It looks like a flower garden of some kind. Look, I zoom in. Well, I didn't zoom in because the camera doesn't have zoom in. I just put the camera close to the flowers, but you can see they look like little flowers and all of these, you know, tiny little petals. Now, this looks very fragile, but it's actually not. It's like hard as a rock, and actually Brian encourages us to touch it. However, obviously you don't want to touch it with force because you will break it. Like even, you know, if you go super hard, you will break it. There's also these bat skeletons embedded into crystal. I know it's hard to see right here, but this whole skeleton is really like enclosed in crystal. And how cool is that? I was talking to Brian about it, and I know it's a little morbid of a discussion, but how cool would it be to just die and then have your whole body, you know, covering crystal for eternity? Like this bat died, who knows, it's an ancient bat, so who knows how long ago, tens of thousands of years, who knows. And now it's covering crystal, and we're here like X-raying the poor thing. Look at this. You can see like all the rips. Look at that. X-raying bats. There's a couple of these. Here's another one, another example. This one wasn't completely enclosed, but it's also surrounded by like this crystal pool that I'm touching. You can see I'm taking it easy. I'm not going hard on it, but there's another bat skeleton, which I thought it was cool. But yeah, look at that crystal. And the bat's cool, but I mean, come on. This is a whole mountain of crystal. Not gonna ignore it. Now, don't adjust your cell phone or your monitor. You're not seeing it blurry. The camera is not failing. It's just we're diving right now through the halocline, which is where the fresh water and the salt water meet. It creates this fuzzy effect. And because this crevice right here is not as big, like here I'm raising the camera to try to give you the full size of it. We are completely immersed in it. But if I look down into a crack, as you can see right here, then the visibility is fine because I'm below the halocline. That's just salt water down there, and visibility is great. Another crystal pool right here. Brian is showing us. This one is way smaller, right? Tiny. Look at that. Of course, you can touch it. Again, taking it easy. Not a whole lot of pressure. And there's another one that is tiny. And then even tinier crystal fangs or whatever grew on it, which is super cool. So these ones are bigger. They look like teeth kind of thing. Look at that. Look at this one. This is the one with the tiny ones. They look like hair. That's how small it is. The camera, even shooting in 4K, it cannot capture the thin little... Look at this. Looks like fuzzy thing. No, that's not fuzzy anything. That's crystal. Super awesome. There's a ton of these pools. This one is probably my favorite, and I'm kind of disappointed that the camera doesn't really capture the beauty of this one. But this one is all like diamonds. Like everything in the bottom looks like diamonds. And again, I'm kind of bummed out that the camera doesn't really capture it. It's probably my fault. But all of those white things in person, like with your own eyes, looks like diamonds. Like there's thousands of diamonds right there on the floor. It's pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of the dive, as you can see, is not super tight, but there's not a whole lot of room for movement. And most of it is actually on the halocline, so you have to get really close to capture everything. Until you get to the main feature of this cave, which is called, you know, the glass factory. The whole dive is the glass factory, but in here we're going into the, you know, the what gives the name to this dive, the glass factory itself, and ultimately we arrive to something, Brian, called the frozen rain. And this entire part of the dive I didn't really cut much, so for the next 5-10 minutes I'm not sure, it will be uncut, raw, unedited footage showing you what it is like to dive inside the glass factory. So notice that what Benjamin is doing is actually, it was done on the briefing. Brian told us, unlike the regular diving position that you guys have come accustomed to, where the fins are like above and your knees are bent at 90 degrees, you know, your typical diving position everybody wants to be at, here we're dragging our fins. And the reason for that is that the stalactites are already broken in the bottom. They've been broken for I don't know how long. So you can drag your feet and you can actually crawl. So Benjamin and I, and also Brian, were all deflated. We took all the air out of our wing, air out of your dry suit if you're wearing one, air out of everything. And we're just belly crawling basically on the floor because you don't want to damage the ceiling. And even here, you look at the camera, it seems like I'm close to the ceiling. I'm really just laying down, and my arm is like up like a periscope. I'm trying to capture the video above their heads, but my body is actually down with them. It's down at the bottom. Now, obviously, I'm paying attention that the camera is not bumping into any stalactites or anything like that. Alright, so Benjamin is following directions, dragging his fins. He has excellent control, by the way. There's a couple of parts of this video, and I'll point those out, where he was very, very close to the stalactites, but he moves exactly at the right second to make sure he's not bumping into anything. He's like a ninja. He's awesome. I have to give myself a little more space. He can be like half an inch from something and not break and know exactly where his fins are and all that stuff. So you can see the ceiling is full of stalactites. If you go up a little bit, rise a little bit, you will break it. And then there's all this trapped air, which makes it like mercury. It's like a mirror of some kind. See it up there? It's kind of weird. Anyway, so I'm following along. We get to this pool on the right, which is where these roses are. You will see these kind of crystal roses coming up from the ceiling. You can already kind of see them there on the top left. I'm coming close. I know it's not the best camera work, guys. I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted to give you the unaltered version of this dive. I was really happy that Brian did not object to me carrying a camera in there. So look at these roses. I get close to it, but again, it wasn't me. I just stretched my arm. I was in total control. Now, some of these roses and flowers and whatnot, these formations right here, were already broken and are on the bottom. So Brian's actually going to grab some of these and put them in my hand for a close-up. So you're about to see a close-up of what these look like, even closer than I am right now. Because, yeah, I couldn't stretch my arm all the way to getting super close to those ones on the ceiling. Plus, if I get super close, Brian probably would have pulled me back. Now, notice that Brian dives with those gloves. Those are like old school cave divers gloves. I don't think I'm cool enough to pull that off. He is. But alright, so here we go. See, this is the close-up. It's like this one grew up on the bottom, on the floor of the cave. Just like that. Look, it's just solid crystal. And it's way heavier than it looks. Like, you're holding it, and you can't believe how heavy it is. So we're both analyzing it carefully. He places it back. I mean, I don't think it would, like, if we dropped that thing, it would break, but I'm not going to test that theory. And he's just telling us this one grew up from the ceiling. Layer by layer by layer by layer. Then it hits the water and it blows up. So that is the theory, is when it hit the water, it started to get bigger. So that's why it looks like a torch of some kind, like an Olympic torch, but we call them flowers because they kind of look like flowers. Well, like flowers from like 90s CGI, you know, with all the sharp angles and stuff and lack of pixels. So if you get in that mindset, flowers. So we're looking at it. He's telling us how it grew. Awesome. And then there are some other even smaller ones that he doesn't even let us play with. It's like it's shallow because, or you know, it's when you look at it, it is not solid crystal. The ones that came from the ceiling, they're kind of like straw. Yeah, that would be a big ring. All right, so now watch this dialogue about to happen, which are next steps. You guys good? Okay. You hold. Watch me. I'm gonna go this way and down. You can pull. See, this stuff is not gonna, you know, it's not gonna, you're not gonna break it. It's all solid in the crystal. Wait right here though. And then control your buoyancy side by side and fins down. All of this, by the way, was discussed during the briefing, which I didn't show because the briefing for the glass factory is a long one. So notice Brian's staying low, fins low, he's pulling on the bottom. Then I look at Benjamin, I'm like, huh? That's really cool. This whole thing. I don't know what he said. I wish he was here to tell me what he was thinking. But we were all, you know, amazed, of course. So he's shining a light on the roses again. He's like, please be careful, don't break that. And of course, I don't want to break him. You guys good? Okay, calm down. Now, in this one, just to talk you through it, we pull ourselves. Notice Benjamin start pulling, but he gets to a point where the wall ends and you can't pull yourself anymore. So notice Brian is getting ready with his hand to kind of grab his calf and then push him the rest of the way. And he's going to do the same with me. Now for me, I decided to go selfie mode, so you get to see what it looks like to get out of there. Once again, I'm diving the side kick, so that's why the hostess kind of goes sideways instead of to my back, which is what you guys are used to on the sidewinder. So there, he's having his hand ready. He grabs my calf, pushes me all the way, and I can breathe. Whew. Sigh of relief. Nothing broken. Now we do get a nice view from the other side. This is called Frozen Rain, and you can see why for obvious reasons. It is breathtaking to see this in person, especially the first time you see it. I mean, it's kind of breathtaking every time, to be honest. This is my second time doing the glass factory dive, and I mean, once again, it's like you get to admire. Look at this shot. It's unbelievable. And I hope if you're watching this and you're a diver, that you're inspired to make this a goal of yours in the future. These caves are not gonna go anywhere, right? So you don't have to become a cave diver and go do this dive tomorrow. Take your time, practice, get the skills. That's what I did. You know, I knew I wanted to be at the crystal caves someday when I started diving rebreathers. It took me a couple years of training and practice and diving a lot, but then I did it, you know, and I don't regret it, and I want to go there as often as I can, which right now is once a year. And we already booked the trip for 2024. So here we go. We're getting out. We get out in the same kind of order that we get in, out of the glass factory. But on the other side, Brian has this cool surprise. Now, I'm going to pause for a second, because if you're going to do this dive yourself one day, if you're looking forward to doing this dive yourself one day, you might want to skip the next, I don't know, 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and you get to see this with your own eyes. This is the one place that we didn't spoil for Benjamin, and we are not going to spoil for Woody whenever Woody gets around doing Glass Factory. So every time there's a new diver, during the briefing, it's kind of like, look, when we get out, I'm going to tell you to come here, and then you're going to pop your head over this ledge, and you're going to see something special. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So once again, if you're going to see this, I would prefer that you see it with your own eyes for the first time instead of watching it on video. Video doesn't do it justice. It's not good enough. So watch it with your own eyes. But if you're never going to get there because you're not a diver or because you're not interested in cave diving or whatever, then keep watching. So I do my reveal. Drum roll. It's all this super cool crystal pool. It's massive. It goes all the way to the back. You can't even see the end. And then there's all this hanging stuff. It looks like, I don't know, like chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. It's not like the roses. It's like the roses times 30 or something like that. And all of these look like petals, right? I'm not an expert in roses. I'm sure that if I knew more roses I'm not an expert in flowers. I'm sure if I knew more than roses, I would be able to tell you this looks like petunias or whatever. But I have no idea. I don't know anything about flowers. So here we go. This looks like massive flowers on a flower garden. So once again, I hope you saw it with your own eyes. So Benjamin and I fist bump. We both saw it. Benjamin saw it for the first time. That was my second time. And it's epic every time. Now, on the way back out, Brian told us, look, when we get back to the Crazy 5 intersection with all the lines, I'm going to ask you if you want to take the long way out or the short way out. And, of course, we took the long way out, which takes us to even more formations like this ridiculous wedding cake. It's a massive, it's a mountain of crystal. And it's surrounded by these draperies. And it's gorgeous. I was able to get really, really close to this one and show you. See, that is huge. That's Benjamin saying that. It's true. It's like, I don't know, like 20 feet tall, 6 meters tall. This thing is just humongous. It's a mountain of crystal. How long it took nature to build this thing? I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy. That's what he's saying. And we have to be super careful. Notice that on the wall on the left, there's a lot of tiny stalactites. If you kick any of them, it's over. Like, you will break it immediately. And this is where you get to see how good of a diver Benjamin really is, because he has the utmost control, right? He gets so close to them, but never broke any of them. The whole week, I didn't see him break one. Which is hard to do, because some of this stuff is like minefields. Look at this. He's like, oh, no, you're going to break. I remember thinking this, recording. I'm like, Ben, you're going to break. He just got caught up in line. Just took a second. Unhooked himself. Swim away. Nothing broken. Unbelievable. Really, really good. I would like to think that I'm also able to be like that. That I have that level of awareness, but I don't want to test it. I'd rather stay away. So anyway, we're on our way out. This is it, the end of the dive. This is where you get to compare the computer from earlier, if you remember the number, to the computer right now. So notice that now we are 107 minutes. So we're getting close to 2 hours. 13 minutes away from 2 hours. We have racked up some deco. So 2 minutes that I'm going to spend at 20 feet. So 6 meters. We're back at 65 feet. So it's the same area. I wanted to take a computer, a before and after, if you will. But notice that I've only used like 500 psi of O2 if you compare it to the previous numbers. So what is 500 psi? So 500 divided by 14.7 is 34 bar. That's all I use, 34 bar. My bailout one is still a 2968, and I think it was a 3100 or whatever earlier. So like 10 bar or something like that I use of bailout. And my bailout is my diluent too. So that is inflation, or whenever I needed to, you know, lower my PO2 or whatever, I added some of that. But you can see we're getting close to the end of the dive, and we have basically brand new tanks. That's the beauty of rebreather diving. 2968, 2248. Perfect. So yeah, we're coming out. Same thing in reverse, right? Only difference is we had that stop, but we start raising our PO2 as we're coming out. You can see the cave diving sign, or at least the back of it, because we're coming out. And at the cave diving sign, that's 20 feet, we drop our 100% O2 tanks there. And again, that is just in case somebody has to bail out from deep inside the cave. When you get to the sign, you're able to go in 100% O2, which dramatically reduces our decompression time. So we're all picking up oxygen bottles. Notice that Brian picked up his bottle, didn't change buoyancy, not even 1 foot. Now Benjamin is doing that too. He's staying on trim. Lighting is not the best, but he's not on the bottom. He's just right there floating and hooking his tank up. And he's swimming away with it, no problem. Now I try to take mine off without stopping the recording. Notice the mine has my name, Gus. You can see it right there on that orange tag. And I try to do it one-handed. 112 minutes into the dive. And yeah, I felt miserable. Obviously, I need both hands for this. So I kind of make a mess of the camera, but that's just to release the tank. And then I'm ready to go. So now I pick it up, add some gas. You heard it. You heard the gas, and that is to counter the weight of the tank. Then I can be on trim, hook it up. Don't have to be on the bottom. Tell Brian I'm ready. You ready? Yep. Go out. Now notice that Brian is not going out first. He's going out last. And the reason for that is that this dive ends with something very special, which is a beautiful view of the dock or the decking area out there, plus some of the stalagmites and stalactites and the reflection of it. The water is so calm, and in a sunny day, if you notice, it looks like there's like a light bulb on the other side of that deck back there. That's the sun shining through it, and you can see the reflection of Benjamin, which he broke with gas, with some bubbles. But man, this dive ends so beautifully that I wanted to make sure I capture that. So this is just a sunny day in Abaco, allowing us to experience that on the way out. And it really is beautiful. I wish you can get like a really, really high quality picture of it, because I think it would be a great addition to put it on a wall somewhere. That is a wrap for day 3. Glass Factory. What do you think?
It was awesome. We could just spend the whole week here.
It's unlimited stuff.
It was all right.
Wait till you what is it? Wait till you show me the good stuff?
Yeah, wait till I show you the real good stuff.
Exactly. In case you miss day number 2, which was also awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're right
Not
here.
as awesome as today.
Not as awesome as
No.
today. No. But still, it's a pretty cool video. Plus, we went to the grocery store. They get to see, if you didn't see what we athletes eat, well, when we're out, check out video number 2. We'll see you on the next one.